The terms manga and comics are often misused as synonyms. However, manga and comics have profound differences, both on the stylistic and on the narrative level. It's interesting to note that the reading order of the tables and cartoons of a manga is not the same as that with which we are used to reading the stories of Mickey Mouse. Japanese comics are characterized by the Oriental reading order, which means starting to read from what for us is the last page and following the cartoons from right to the left, and in any case from top to bottom. To distinguish a literary product from the other, however, the colors, the way of reading the cartoons, or the format of the volumes are not the only elements to be considered. The discrepancies also concern the different way of telling a story, just as the cultures from which they arise and represent are different. In addition, manga differ from Western comics for their typical, almost childlike line of drawing. The characters' huge eyes are unmistakable, which is due to a strong cultural loan from the Disney world that one of the most important Japanese cartoonists of the 20th century, Osamu Tezuka, has included in his works, starting a real artistic canon. Osamu Tezuka was in fact one of the leading exponents of the manga world. Born in 1928 and died in 1989, nicknamed the God of Manga, Osamu admitted that he was inspired by the graphics of cartoons like Mickey Mouse, Bambi, and The Lion King of Walt Disney. Moreover, if Western comics are purely dedicated to the youngest, the same principle is not applicable to their Japanese competitors. The latter, in fact, well rooted in the local culture and considered on a par with any other artistic form, enjoy a much wider audience ranging from children to businessmen, from housewives to teenagers. An important aspect that must be considered is the translation of the comic. When translating a comic, the translator not only must be careful to keep as much as possible the meaning and emotions that the author wants to convey, but to ensure that everyone understands, it's necessary to study and analyze the culture of the cartoonist country and the setting of the cartoon itself. In most cases, the literal translation cannot be applied to the comic translation. In summary, the translator's role is not only to translate, but also to create. For this reason, he also becomes the author of a story that has the same meaning, but which is rendered in a unique and different way from the original. To better understand this concept, we can analyze a strip of peanuts. When this comic arrived from the US to Italy, it obviously brought with it a bit of American culture. In fact, we can notice in the translation the change in the evaluation system. In the United States, the evaluation system is based on the letters of the alphabet, and each corresponds to a percentage. In Italy, on the other hand, it's based on a numerical system. In the strip, we can see the translator mediated between cultures. If he had kept the American evaluation system, probably many Italians would not have understood, and the joke would not have had the same impact. Another translation problem also appears in the strip. By replacing the American grade with the Italian one, the translator also had to change the line. While in the first strip the joke is based on having confused the initial of the teacher's middle name with an A, in the Italian strip the attention shifts from the initial of the name to the signature of the professor, making everything more understandable and proper to the Italian culture. Due to the isolationism of the Tokugawa shogunate, the great works of Western literary heritage arrive in Japan in fits and starts and extremely late. When Western culture managed to seep into Japan at the time, not a few people were attracted to the new. Among these, there were several authors such as Go Nagai. The Divine Comedy, or Dante Shinkyoku, is a manga by Go Nagai based on the homonymous work by Dante Alighieri. Nagai not only takes up Dante's work, but reworks it and makes it his own. Dante will also be recreated in his work, but this time he will have all the typical manga behaviors. For example, he blushes when he meets Beatrice. As you can see, the relationship between manga and the classics of the Western literary tradition is centered on intercultural translation, aimed at making known and incorporating foreign cultural elements into the narrative logic and iconic rhetoric of Japanese comics. The cycle of greedy and prodigal offers the opportunity to study a curious case of intercultural and intermedial translation. The deviation here concerns the punishment to which these sinners are subjected. In the comedy, in fact, greedy and prodigal are forced to drag large boulders uninterruptedly, while in Dante's Shinkyoku they are condemned to push sacks of coins, just like in Donald's Hell. I wanted to mention Go Nagai and his comedy because I believe that this mangaka has made his work the example par excellence of an intercultural mediator. Go Nagai performs an original work of simplification and dissemination of Dante's comedy, on one hand respecting fundamentally its iconographic and dramaturgical power, on the other by adopting a series of reductions useful to make its message more understandable, even in iconic terms, to an audience not accustomed to reading the poem. Go Nagai was not the only one to revisit Dante's work. In fact, the great parodies of Disney were born from Dante's Divine Comedy, starting with Mickey's Inferno, which in 1949 brought the Italian literature into the Disney world as never before.